Thanks for joining us on Arc Salt Lake. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Tuesday, February 11th. And tonight we're taking an in-depth look at two men accused of duping hundreds of fraud victims in Utah.
Somebody presents something and it seems too good to be true, or it elicits too much of an emotional response in you. It likely is.
Like, this has affected our family, and we're still paying off the debt that we took on in this investment.
Well, these victims were all told they could make thousands of dollars with little to no effort. That would be passive income, hands-off sort of approach. The pitch to investors was simple. Pay in for tens of thousands of dollars. Likely it was between 30 and 40K per, investment from these folks. And get the return on your investment within 12 to 18 months with thousands of dollars in monthly take-home cash after that. The problem, there was no return to victims. And while the two men indicted allegedly took over $26 million.
There's everybody's idea of wealth, and if someone's really flashing it, they probably really don't have it.
An investment where Megan Elder thought the passive income could change her family's life.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for us since I'm at home and like our kids are babies. We can't really afford daycare and all that. This would be great for us to put some of our savings into. We can have a business, have that monthly cash flow that everybody dreams about.
Like hundreds of others, how much did you give them initially?
So we made the initial $40,000 investment.
She paid thousands of dollars to Alpha Influence LLC in hopes of seeing the promised return.
We were all in, that was a significant amount of money for us. We're a single income family. My husband runs his own business. We're self-employed. So it was a really big leap of faith.
She worked with Cole Brimhall, seen here on his Facebook page, a sales agent at the company which would set up Amazon stores for their investors. How good did it look on social media?
Oh, amazing. You know, these guys are living this lifestyle you want. They're young, like hustlers.
The items listed were being drop shipped, which is when a purchased item comes from a different supplier than where it was bought. This goes against Amazon business policies. Cease and desist letters started coming. Megan's store was shut down. The passive income never came pouring in, and like many others, Megan is out the investment.
It weighs on me a lot. My husband was like, if this doesn't work out, don't want to get emotional. He's like, then you don't get to make more business decisions. And sorry, it's a lot bigger, you know. But we've recovered, we're fine. I know there's a lot of families that aren't though.
Hundreds of other families.
So eventually, I represent over 130 of the 500 plus victims to Jeremiah Evans.
Some being represented by Guardian Law and Draper.
My clients had to watch for a year or two while he was on social media posting content with Lamborghinis and how well he's been doing.
It's noted in the federal indictment that Jeremiah "the Bull" Evans, shown here on one of his many social media pages, wired a $50,000 down payment for a white Lamborghini in 2021. Money from the proceeds of securities fraud. According to the DOJ, Evans, the owner of Alpha Influence, lied to investors about how successful his company was and how long it was in operation. Evans claimed the initial investor funds would open an Amazon store when only a fraction of the funds was used for this purpose. I reached out to attorneys representing both Evans and Brimhall. Brimhall's attorney replied to me saying, although a minor player in this business, he, Cole Brimhall, was the first one to take responsibility for his reckless actions, one count of fraud in the offer and sale of securities, and is working hard to repay those whose investments failed. To be clear, he never intentionally or knowingly defrauded anyone. Adam Craik represents Evans.
And there is plenty of judgment here. There's plenty of things that went wrong. But I do have a guy who is seriously repentant and is seriously saying, hey, I'm going to try and fix this. I'm going to try and make it right. I know I've hurt people.
I thought I did enough research.
Meanwhile, victims like Megan hope they get some of their investment back as the court process works itself out. Is it harder to trust a little bit now?
Yeah, it is hard, and I think it just really shut our whole family down for the idea of other opportunities outside of what we can control because it didn't go well. And sometimes you have to learn those hard life lessons, but for us that was enough. One and done is enough for us.
If you've essentially discovered this money printing machine, what do you need my money for?
Brandon Amaker is the Director of Emerging Tech Policy and an instructor of national security at Utah Valley University. Coincidentally, he was also approached to be part of an e-commerce store's scam or investment, if you will, multiple times. And those who talked to him all said the same things. But he saw the red flags. Here's what we spoke about.
On several different occasions, my wife and I were out shopping, and somebody would approach us, strike up a friendly conversation, usually for a rather extended period of time, seeming to take a genuine interest. And then somehow they would bring up, oh, what do you do for work? Are you open to new opportunities? And then it would quickly go into, well, I'm doing this great thing in e-commerce and we're bringing in, massive numbers, and you could open up this store and it's all just for you, and try to kind of dangle out, well, you could be making $100K in 3 months, or whatever the claims might be. So that was typically how those conversations kind of started.
But this didn't happen just once.
No, as a matter of fact, 3 separate times, all in multiple different locations of Target, which was very interesting.
Why do you think that is? Why would they choose someone like you, or maybe you with your wife, or a Target location? Have you thought about that?
I have, and I think that part of it is that all 3 times it was in the baby section. And so I think maybe the target demographic they're going after are, parents of young children who are probably going through or entering a new phase in life. They might be experiencing kind of that financial shock that comes with parenthood. And so I think it's a very vulnerable kind of moment for a lot of people in terms of when they're looking for economic opportunity. So that's my assessment, but I found that interesting.
Spending a couple $100 on a stroller or a car seat or the necessities, and then, we can find a way to get that money back real quick.
Right. And, something else that was interesting is each time, or a couple of the times, my wife and I noticed that these people never actually bought anything. They were just kind of hovering around the area. Essentially what I'll do for you is I will set up this store. You get to pick the products, and then you get this massive passive income that's going to be bringing in, thousands of dollars every month. And that's essentially what they were looking at.
You can do this without touching a thing.
Exactly. We already have all the infrastructure set up. You just have to come in, make the investment, put in the time, and then you've got your own e-commerce business. It definitely kind of raised alarm bells for me, from a professional standpoint. I deal with scammers and people who claim they're not who they actually are all the time. And, one of the questions that kept coming up is, well, if you've essentially discovered this money printing machine, what do you need my money for? Why do you need $30,000 from me? Are you just doing this out of the goodness of your heart? It doesn't seem to make any sense that you've just essentially discovered free money and yet you need an investment.
Did you ever take a next step with any of these, or at least take some information, or did they hand you anything and say, give me a call? Anything like that?
Each time they wanted to get my number, text me, reach out to me. A couple of times it was kind of under the auspices of like, we're new to the area. We want, a new couple friends or whatever it might be. On one occasion, I was just curious, to see, because after the second or third time, I'm like, well, what is going on here? This is too eerily similar. And so I did have a follow-up call with that person and tried to get more information out of them in terms of exactly what it was. And what I found was that as soon as I started asking difficult questions, the barriers went up.
Like what?
For example, started asking, well, what exactly, are you doing here? What do the numbers look like? How much have you actually made? And I distinctly remember one of these people telling me, well, I can already tell that you don't have an entrepreneurial mindset because, you're not willing to come and meet with do you think entrepreneurs don't ask questions? Do you think it's not entrepreneurial to do your due diligence? And at that point, the conversation was very quickly ended.
Having been through the sales pitch, if you will, and then seeing that and realizing in some of these cases it is a scam, what sort of advice would you give somebody if it seems too good to be true? It likely is, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of universal across all of these things that, from a professional's perspective, we track. If somebody presents something and it seems too good to be true, or it elicits too much of an emotional response in you, it likely is. And like I said earlier, if somebody really does have this magical business proposition that generates them, thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, you should always ask the question, Why do they need you? Right? What do you bring to the table? If you don't bring a particular expertise to the table, or, you know, if they just need your money and yet they claim to have this business model that just generates money, that is a huge contradiction.
Coming up on Arc Salt Lake, the other side of this case. Hear from the attorney representing one of the men who recently pled guilty and what he has to say about that man's intentions, so he says, in all of this. Continuing our in-depth coverage tonight on the scheme that left hundreds of Utahns out tens of millions of dollars. And earlier in tonight's show, you briefly heard from the attorney representing one of the men charged in the case who has now pled guilty. He maintains that this is not a well thought out targeted scheme, and it never was. Here's what else he told me.
Obviously, there's a lot of victims. There's a lot of people that were listed in the information. There was essentially a business created that Mr. Evans is a young guy. He's now 29 years old, created this Amazon store business where people would invest in an Amazon store or acquire an Amazon store. They were going to be then assisted in the sale of product on that store. And honestly, I got a kid here who kind of got a little bit beyond and over his skis, that probably went a little bit too far, started doing well, tried to involve people in the community. And honestly, there's a lot of people in this industry that he thought he was getting good advice from and was essentially getting absolute garbage advice.
So, to be blunt, does he maintain innocence in any of this, or does he say, I did this and I just got carried away? Like, what is his actual, does he recognize what he did to all these victims? Allegedly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, just so you know, we've already pled, right? We did a plea agreement already. And in order to do that, you literally have to tell the judge, hey, I am responsible here. And he took responsibility for it. The distinction, I think, with this kid is there are people out there who have evil intentions and evil schemes. This is not a convoluted, extremely well thought out scheme. And I don't mean to throw him under the bus. This is one where people probably, if they would have just listened and said, hey, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's also a lot of emotions that go into things. There's a lot of hype about stuff. They were being referred by others because some of the people's stores were doing pretty well. So has he taken responsibility? 100%. But was this a invented scheme that took a lot of planning? No, not even close.
There's a lot of people out a lot of money. Does Jeremiah have guilt for this?
Oh, absolutely. Look, we all know what his nickname is, right? And we see this Alpha Con and we see these things that have gone on. And I know that's going to cause a lot of people to laugh. It's going to cause a lot of people to say, you know, he deserves what he's getting. And to be brutally honest, right? We're all guilty sometimes of prejudging the book, right? We judge the book by its cover. I was actually I had to eat some crow because I may have had some preconceived notions myself. But this guy does not come across as the type that is like, yeah, I did this to all of you, take that. It's more, holy cow, I have gone too far here and I really, really need to make this right with people.
I know obviously there's frozen assets and stuff, but what does Jeremiah want to make right by any of this and make sure the money gets back to the right place?
Absolutely. In fact, all of those assets will be pledged in a forfeiture as, you know, once the sentencing takes place. Anything that can be recovered will go directly to the victims. Well, you got to remember when this originated, like right now he's 29. And so this started around roughly 2019 to 2020. So we're talking 5 years ago. You're talking about a guy that was 24, 23 years old, who's all of a sudden creating this large entity who gets a little bit of success. And he sought what he thought was valid legal counsel. He sought what he thought was valid CPA representation a while ago. And so he thought and tried to do it in a way that he thought was appropriate. But as soon as he received the letter, so he received a letter that indicated he was a person of interest, and he was immediately looking to, what have I done wrong? What has happened here?
So for those wondering, Jeremiah the Bull Evans is the former host of the AlphaCon conference that was in Salt Lake City for at least a couple of years. He and Cole Brimhall will be sentenced separately for these crimes in the coming months. Brimhall will be first. You can catch up on my reporting on this case right now on our website, KUTV.com.
All right, we saw a little bit of snow today, and that snow is moving out of here. Now the main focus of the weather story is the cold weather that is settling in. We're in the 20s up and down the Wasatch Front. You factor in the wind chills, and we're into the teens across much of the area. The actual temperature is already at 10 degrees in Park City, 23 in Delta, 26 in Milford, 22 in Panguitch, 29 in Cedar City, and here we go. We have winter storm watches up for all of our mountains in this state here as we get from Thursday into Friday and into Saturday, 1 to 2 feet down for our southern mountains, central and northern mountains, 1 to 3 feet of snow. So some good snow heading our way. Meanwhile, we've got active weather further out towards the east from Missouri all the way up through Chicago, seeing some good snow as we get into the day tomorrow. The mid-Atlantic seeing some snow right now. You could see some heavy snow in the D.C. area, including southern New Jersey, and the extent of that precipitation sagging downwards there into portions around the Mississippi area. Meanwhile, here at home, a few isolated flurries will be possible, I think, through the next few hours out in the Tooele County area. Keeping an eye on this little batch here developing over the Great Salt Lake. But generally drying things out as we get into the day tomorrow, sunshine and cold weather. Here we go on Thursday afternoon, starting to see some of that mountain snow, some valley snow for the most part through the evening, then transitioning over to valley rain. Still dealing with heavy mountain snow all up and down the state. And look at this, ending our dry streak in the St. George area with the potential for some lingering showers as we get into Saturday morning, clearing out, and then maybe another storm as we head into President's Day. So the lows overnight tonight down into the teens. This will likely be the coldest temperatures we've seen so far this season if we do reach 14 for a low. 0 in Park City, -2 in Evanston, 6 in Nephi. So that is some frigid air heading our way, and high temperatures tomorrow not getting above freezing. Likely to see a high here in Salt Lake City of 29 degrees, 23 in Heber, 31 in Delta, 36 in Cedar City, 49 in St. George. In St. George, you'll see those scattered showers arriving on Thursday, continuing on through Friday with a nice little warm up. And look at that, nice for the weekend with temperatures warming up into the lower 60s. Along the Wasatch Front, we've got those first alert weather days as well issued for Thursday and Friday. That's going to be mainly up for the mountains and overpasses and areas heading to the canyons. Please be extra cautious if you're traveling heading into Saturday. Some lingering snow and rain there. Sunday drying things out with that President's Day storm arriving on Monday, clearing out as we get into Tuesday.
Let's get soft with you. Later this week, Best Friends Animal Society waiving adoption fees for Valentine's Day weekend. Best Friends is offering free adoptions starting Friday through Monday. On Valentine's Day, the shelter is also giving people the opportunity to take a shelter pet home for the night.
Yeah, this is so people can see if a pet is the right fit. Then on Saturday, Best Friends is hosting an adoption event at the IFA Country Store in Riverton from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
The Super Bowl of Caring is brought to you by Smith's, Mountain Home Services, Rocky Mountain Power, Check City, America First Credit Union, and Ford.
While there's still time for you to help with our Super Bowl of Caring, for information on how to donate, grab your phone right now. I encourage you to do both. Scan the QR code on your screen or go to KUTV.com/donate.
For many children, their only meal is a free school breakfast or lunch. Just $10 can feed a family or a child for a weekend.
And maybe 30 or 40 bucks can help the whole family. Sean,
That's
how
right.
was the slopes this morning?
It was pretty good. It's a little bit of snow, and we've got a whole lot of snow arriving for the end of the week.
All right, buckle up. We're back tomorrow night at 7. Take care.